Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Still at the office, huh, Jason?
Yeah, I just live here.
You just pull up the chair behind you or adjacent to you and just throw your feet up.
Pretty much. That's what it feels like sometimes. We should have a quorum tonight because we've got 3 planning commissioners already. And I know our super clerk, Debbie, has already reached out to everybody else. So, and I did get an email from Carrie saying she would be here. So, um,
We should have everybody.
yeah, we should have. The only one that may be a question mark is Craig.
Right.
Well, nice to meet you, Todd.
Nice to meet you. How's everything?
Oh, yeah. So I wonder how many of us are going to go to the meeting in person next month, the joint meeting.
I like to see most of us
I was thinking
I'd
also.
go in person.
because I don't remember the last time I actually saw you in the same room.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, I plan to attend in person.
Oh, okay, good. Well, I look forward to meeting you in person.
That'd be great.
Jason, the timesheet's in the folder
Okay.
for you to sign. And Brad, thanks for waiting for your packet. Sorry, I forgot to print it when I came in. It seems like I just got
That's
swamped
okay.
with a whole bunch of stuff all at once. It's like,
That's fine, Debbie. Thank you for printing it.
well. And Todd, what side of the table will you be sitting on at the joint meeting? No need to
Hey,
Sitting with
answer.
us.
No need to answer.
hey, I'm hopeful, but I want to be able to respect the process.
No,
And
no, I know.
yeah, you never know. But you know what? It's hard because I don't know. I'm comfortable here with you guys tonight, so
Yeah.
if that's where I sit, that's where I sit. So
So now, are you down in Vegas?
I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I am not. Justin is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Justin is, and he's down there with Metal Tech, but he's representing us all
Yeah,
down
it
there.
seems like a pretty big deal. Just even what just being down there and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
1, 2, 3.
So we're missing Craig and Debbie Strauss Boyd
Jessica.
and Jessica.
But I do see we have a quorum.
Let's give everybody like 1 or 2 more minutes because it's right at 6:30.
Right.
I can reach out to Jessica if that's helpful.
Yeah, if people have phone numbers or email phone numbers for people, give them a call and see if they're having issues on the tech side.
Hello, Carrie.
Hi, Debbie.
Hi.
And Debbie, you talked to Debbie, right?
Yes, I physically talked to her.
I did notice I was getting some alerts that says the meeting was at 6 o'clock.
Weird.
Yeah, because I actually got on right before 6, thinking for some reason that it was at 6 o'clock too. So I was like, wait. So I started going back and I looked at the packet and it said 6:30, and I was like, oh, I must
But
have
the
messed up.
notices I was getting said 6, so.
I know that there was a notice. I got a notice too at 6 o'clock that was a 30-minute reminder.
Okay.
I just sent a message to Debbie Strauss-Boyd and to Craig Sarver and told them the meeting has started, but neither has responded yet.
Okay. We'll wait a few more minutes, and then if not, we'll start with what we have, and we have a quorum, so we can. So let's just give them till 6:35, and then we'll, if that's okay with you, Grant.
Fine.
I'm treating you like the chair until we elect a new chair. It may be you again. I don't know. Just that's on the agenda tonight. That's why I was trying to see if we can get everybody here so we could do that part of it.
Jessica Benyon did respond. She's jumping on.
Okay. I heard a ding.
Dings are good.
Debbie just sent me a message and says that hers is showing the moderator is not joined.
She might have. I would tell her to. Debbie, could you forward Debbie Strauss-Boyd the meeting again? Because I'm the moderator and I'm here.
Do you just have her blocked, Jason?
I don't see her either.
No, I don't have anybody blocked.
Could she be on that other channel, the team channel?
No, because that one doesn't have moderator settings. So the only thing I could think of is that she's logged on to the joint meeting, maybe.
That hasn't gone out yet.
So the number she sent was 215-767-540.
For the meeting ID?
I think so, yeah.
Let me just double check that's the right meeting ID.
Sorry, I'm trying to open mine.
I just forwarded her the new one as well.
Yeah, because that's not. She doesn't have the right meeting ID.
Oh.
Because it's 428.
Okay.
233247.
23324.
Yeah, so I'll say it again, Brad. It's 428 233247. So it should be 9 digits.
Okay, yeah, I sent it to her. She said she's not logged into the city email right now, but I'm doing it on Facebook Messenger to her.
Hey, I didn't hear that.
And I see Commissioner Sarver has joined us.
Hey, Craig.
So we're just waiting on Commissioner Binion and Debbie. It sounds like we're having some technical issues.
I'm here because Blue Jeans directed me to the wrong meeting, so I had to re-enter the code.
Yeah, I think that's what who was in contact with Jessica?
I was. I can forward that to her as well.
Yeah, could you tell her to make sure that the meeting ID that she's entering into Blue Jeans is that one I just read out?
Yeah, I've got it right here.
See, this is the difference between council meetings, Todd, and planning commission. We have no IT support at night. It's me and Debbie trying to figure it out.
I just want to note that Debbie sent out the right meeting information on the email with the packet.
Yes, she did. Yeah.
Always keep us
Yeah.
straight.
Even the Blue Jeans link, as soon as I clicked on that, that was perfect. That just took me right into the meeting. I didn't have to enter anything, nothing.
Yep.
Yeah, my Blue Jeans link sent me to the wrong one. Apparently it's the old one. Is this a new ID?
It might be. I'm just going off the one that, because Chuck had them all set up to expire at the end of the year. So so if you were just using the one that you had always used in the past, you were going to get the wrong one. So that's why, like, Commissioner probably Carey and Todd probably had easy because they were never on the older emails.
On Blue Jeans, it usually auto-populates the previous meeting that you were on.
And I see Debbie, but she's got her mic muted.
I am here.
There you go.
All right, well, great. Do you want to go ahead and get started and then let Jessica join us, or do you guys want to hold out for a couple more minutes? It's up to the commission.
I would say let's start.
Okay.
It's 6:37 on January 19th, 2022. I'm going to declare the meeting of the Planning Commission to come to order. Could we have the roll call, please?
Yeah, Commissioner Solom,
Here.
Commissioner Sarver, Commissioner Sarver,
He's here.
Commissioner Dahl,
Here.
Commissioner Strauss-Boyd,
Here.
Commissioner Hubler,
Here.
Commissioner Dahl, no, well, and then Commissioner Benyon. Not here yet.
Not here yet.
City staff: Jason Sullivan, Planning and Building Supervisor;
Here.
Debbie McDonald, Planning Commission Clerk. Here.
Debbie, let the record reflect it. 6:38, Commissioner Binion did join the meeting.
Thank you.
Well, it's the first meeting of 2022.
And it's the first time we've had 7 planning commissioners in, I think, about a year. So let's just take time and celebrate that good news.
And I was just going to address that. We have 2 new commissioners, Commissioner Dahl and Commissioner Huber, who are joining us. And we expect great things from you because we know your record.
Nice to be here.
One. Oh, go ahead.
Low. No, I was just joking. Just said we set our expectations low.
Well, not that low. Okay. Election of the 2022 chair and vice chair. I will open up.
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say I'll run the election of the chair, and then once we have the chair, I'll turn the meeting back over to the chair. So, do we have a nomination for chair?
I do. I would like to nominate Grant Solom again to be chair.
Any other nominees?
So I would also like to nominate Debbie Strauss-Boyd to be vice chair.
Well, let's get to the chair, and then I'll turn it over to Grant to do the vice chair.
Okay.
So if there's no other nominations for chair, all in favor say aye. Oh, is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye. And Debbie, that was Craig.
Yeah.
Aye.
Hi.
Grant, the meeting is yours again.
Thank you. That having been settled, the chair will open up the meeting, the floor to nominations for the vice chair. Are there any?
I'd
Commissioner
like to
Dahl,
nominate Debbie Strauss-Boyd for vice chair.
have a nomination. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Is there another nomination? None appearing. We have one nomination. All those in favor of Debbie Strauss-Boyd to be the vice chair, say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. And we now have a chair and a vice chair.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Appreciate your service. Next meeting. We have a next meeting on 1 February 2022 at 6 p.m. and it is our annual joint meeting with the City Council. Do we have a show of hands of the people that can be making that?
That Ken?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we will have a quorum, and the next time we meet will be with the city council at 6 p.m. on the 1st of February.
And that meeting is in person or virtual, whichever your option you would like. Just let me know if you're going to be in person so that I can coordinate with the city clerk to make sure that she has seats for everybody, because it gets kind of goofy with the owl down there, as Commissioner Dole knows. So just let me know if you are going to be in person a couple days in advance so that I can let Sadie know so she can get the room set up.
Well, let's get a tentative show of hands of the people that would like to be there in person. 1, 2, 3, 4.
5. It looks like I got Commissioner Dole and Commissioner Dole, Chair Sullum, Commissioner Hubler, and then Vice Chair Boyd, and Commissioner Sarver will be virtual, and Commissioner Binion will be in person.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. And if it changes, tell Jason. Approval of the minutes. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Craig, sorry. Brad moved. Craig, are you seconding?
I am.
Moved and seconded. Any corrections, additions, questions?
So the only correction I saw was Vice Chair Sarver is not really vice chair. He hasn't been in a couple of years, but he keeps reoccurring. So I just wanted to
I'll get that
point
fixed.
that out.
Thank you, Brad.
Okay. Any other corrections, additions? Call the question. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Hey,
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. Public comment? Public
None.
comments? None. Public hearing? None. Old continuing business? None. New business? AB 22-11, Resolution 3009, 2021-2022 Work Plan Amendment. Jason, would you?
Yep, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can kind of walk through this. All right. So for everybody I'm going to do a quick background check because we have, I think, 3 new commissioners since we did a work plan. So the Planning Commission by ordinance is required to have or by resolution, is required to have a 2-year work plan that coincides with the city's biennium budget. The last time we adopted a work plan was in 2021, and it covered all of 2021 and 2022, and that was adopted by resolution. In the intervening year, if there's amendments or changes that need to be made to that work plan, we will do an amendment to the work plan, but it's not, the ideal is it doesn't supplant or replace the work plan. It makes changes based on things that may have happened in the past year for which we need to respond to. So the next time we'll adopt a full new work plan where kind of everything goes back on the table is for the 23-24 biennium. I will say, though, that the comprehensive plan update will be occurring at that time, so that will be the primary driver of our work plan for that 2-year window. So this is kind of the work plan that the Planning Commission works off of in the projects that we work on through the year to support the Planning Commission. So with that being said, kind of want to scroll down here. I'm going to scroll in here, make this a little bit bigger so I can see it a little bit. Move this over. Sorry, I'm getting adjusted here so I can see everything on one screen. It's probably moving around on you, and I apologize. All right, there we go.
I'm not seeing anything.
Here I see. Here, let me put it back over here. Okay, never mind. I'm going to have to leave it on this side. So I'm going to have to look over here, know that I am talking to you. So the first thing is just kind of want to go over, we also have tasks in here that we have completed. So the big task that was on the Planning Commission's work plan last year was the adoption of the Housing Action Plan. That has been completed, which is why this says completed. But we leave it on here since it was part of the work plan. That Housing Action Plan identified a number of strategies, and we'll be working on some of those strategies as we get down into this based on a grant that we received last year for work this year. We did do the Complete Streets Ordinance last year. This was earlier in the year. The council adopted that ordinance, and so we've completed that work plan item. The other thing that was on our work plan is working on the East Town, what we're calling kind of East Town Industrial Countywide Center, and it kind of had two components of it. The first component was making changes to the East Town zoning code to support industrial land uses out there, getting rid of some of the residential and some of the retail uses. The Planning Commission held the public hearings, did all the work, and then late last year, the City Council adopted those amendments. So that phase of the project was done. The second phase was to submit the application to Pierce County, the Pierce County Regional Council, to have the area identified as a countywide industrial center, similar to what we did with downtown as a countywide growth center. However, we're not as far along with our development agreement with Chris Lear and his team. So because of the acreage that we have in Easttown, we have to hit the thousand existing jobs to even apply, and we're just not there yet. So the work on making the application, since we're not going to make the criteria this year because we're just not as far along with that other project as we thought we would be, we'll need to be kicked to 23 or 24 the next time they make a call for applications. And hopefully by then we'll have more of the jobs data and be able to demonstrate that we have that 1,000 jobs. We're doing pretty good. I think we have I think we're somewhere around 500 possibly out in Easttown. And so I think we're making progress on that. Just a little bit more to go to get to that thing, to get to that level. So that's kind of coming, that second part's coming off of our work plan for this year. We didn't get to the 2021, and stop me if there's one that you have questions about or want to discuss in more detail as a commission or individually. We didn't get to the 2021 annual development code regulations. So for our new commissioners, we take a package every year of just random code amendments that apply through titles 14 through 19 as a way of kind of making sure that the code is up to date. We have addressed problems where there's been clarification issues or concerns or just changes. We typically try to do that on an annual basis, but because of some staffing issues that happened late last year, we just did not get the 2021 done. All of the 2021 amendments will roll into 2022. And they're random all over the board. Definitions, how do you round numbers? We had a question come up about that this year. We need to tweak that section again. Changes in the building code, stuff like that. The next one that's on our work plan is to get Midtown designated as a countywide growth center. We will have to identify a subset of that because we're limited to 160 acres. And I don't know if the county is going to do a call for application this year. If they don't, then we won't do any work on this because the next call for application won't be until 2023. So this one is kind of a wait and see, depends on what happens at PCRC. SEPA, it just moved down, so it's still there, and I'll talk about it later. The Midtown, we were going to work on updating the Midtown development regulations this year, but because of getting the HIP grant, which we'll discuss later, and some work that we need to do for parks and comprehensive planning, this item's coming off of the work plan. We just don't have the capacity to support it, and we'd roll over to 2023, 24 possibly. As I said, here's the 2022 development code amendments. We'll get started working on this. If there are sections of the code as commissioners that you feel that we need to look at or feel need to be addressed, please let me know. And we can start working on that and include those in the package. So if there are code sections that you've heard about or talked about or have issues with, just shoot me an email. You don't need to give me all the this is what it should say, just kind of what the code section is, what the issue is. We can begin to roll that into the amendment package. Here, this is where the bulk of our work is going to be, and it's the Housing Action Plan Implementation Grant. So last year we got and applied for a $100,000 grant with the Washington State Department of Commerce to implement the grant. The City Council was very specific in the action items that we need to look at. We had a lot of discussion about all of the elements in the HAP. There's multiple implementation strategies, but there was very, very specific ones that were pulled out, and that was part of the grant, and that's the ones that we're going to be working on. And there's kind of three main areas. One is updating our SEPA regulations. This was already on the work plan. So SEPA is the State Environmental Policy Act. It's a environmental review that we have to go through. It was originally written in the 1970s, before we have adopted growth management, platting codes, the variety of codes that we now have. So there's some options where you can raise what we call the categorical exemption, which is projects that are below that threshold don't have to go through this separate SEPA review. So we're going to be raising that categorical exemption level, kind of cleaning up our process as it relates to SEPA, and kind of streamlining to use SEPA where it needs to be used, which is as a safety net when the development regulations aren't fully mitigating for the impact. So that's our first one, and we have to have that kind of done by October of this year. So you're going to start seeing work on this probably begin at our next meeting, kind of with some more discussion. ADU regulations. We are going to be updating our ADU regulations, primarily related to parking requirements, building height limitations, design standard owner occupancy requirements, and kind of an issue that we have with our water service base charge. When you have an ADU, you get charged a separate base charge, even if you don't have a separate meter. So we're going to work on that. And that's, yes.
Would you explain ADU?
Accessory dwelling units. So there's, by state law, we're required to allow for accessory dwelling unit on any property that contains a single family home. It can be attached, which means it can be included in the single-family home, or it can be detached, like above a garage or just a small cottage on the property. We've had a number of ones that have come in. One thing we've learned is our parking regulations in the ADU code are in conflict. They say two different things inside the same code, so we need to clean that up. We also put an 18-foot building height limitation on it, which I believe was a recommendation by a former planning commissioner. Had to deal with not wanting to have big towering houses. But one of the problems we're finding is when you have a detached garage and then you try to put an ADU in the second story of that detached garage, you're already blowing out your building height. So there's been some implementation issues with that. And so we're going to be kind of bringing those, Mehdi, who's our new associate planner here at the city, will be bringing forth that ordinance here this spring to begin work on updating those regulations. Then the last one is we're calling the Housing Availability, Diversity, and Affordability Project. And this is a series of different strategies that the council identified specifically to the way we do open space for plats and multifamily developments, parking regulations for multifamily developments, infrastructure improvements associated with division of land, some missing middle and multifamily developments, and streamlining the design review process. So one quick example is if you build a duplex, you have to, and I'm not talking about changing the zone, just where duplexes are allowed. Under the current code, you would have to go through design review, and you would have to do frontage improvements, curb, gutter, and sidewalk. However, if you were to do a two-lot short plat, you could pay an in lieu fee for your frontage improvements. So there's some inconsistencies in our application when it's the same number of units. So we're going to be kind of updating those standards so that they're kind of more consistent across the board. The way we do short plats is the way we do duplexes and triplexes. And then looking at when improvements are required. So those were the kind of ones that the council specifically identified, and we're going to be working on that. Work on that project's really not going to start off until November of this year and be finished in 2023. The big ad, these are the big ads. We are recommending and proposing that the city council take the money that was allotted for the Midtown Park master plan, which was going to be more of a detailed construction master plan, and reallocate that to do a complete update of our parks, trails, and open space plan. That would provide us, one, allow us to update the plan for Allen York Park, come up with a conceptual plan for Midtown Park, come up with, trails and open space alignment areas. Victor Falls Parks is another one. We don't know if $145,000 will be enough budget for the whole project, but will be enough to get us started this year, and we'll have to kind of figure out how we're going to phase that project. There's a couple reasons we need to do it. One, we don't really have a good master plan that's been updated in the last 20 years of where we want to build parks, how we're going to pay for them, what we want in all of the parks, that it's kind of tied together. The second one is that the parks plan also has to be certified by the Washington State Recreation Office in order for us to receive what they call RCO grants. We're no longer certified, so we can't receive any more RCO grants until we get a new plan certified, which means we have to go through the process. Additionally, everybody knows there's a cell phone tower out in Allen York Park. That was actually a violation of the city's agreement with RCO back in the 70s. And they finally have called us on it. And so we have to now deal with what they call a conversion issue and find a way to replace that lost parkland with other parkland. So that's going to be part of it. Dealing with Midtown Park. The Parks Commission will be involved with this too. Once we get a consultant on board and we figure out how we're going to do it, we may end up, instead of trying to have joint meetings with all 12 commissioners, well, I guess it'd be 11, we would try to come up with an ad hoc committee that includes some members from the Planning Commission, some members from the Park Commission, David Wells with REC, to do the heavy lifting on the individual things and then have briefings and still allow the commissions to provide input for everything, but have kind of a more focused ad hoc committee. More to come on that. The second part of this is council has to allocate the funds. Is there any questions on that one?
Todd?
Yeah, Jason. So essentially, we would take that that $145,000 that's already in the budget, reallocate it to this. You don't think anything will happen in 2022 with Midtown? I know it's a bit of a process, but there seems to be a lot of discussion about that development with some of the parks discussion and Parks and Rec discussion.
I think. Go ahead.
And if we can't take that, can we just do an amendment and go about it that way?
The park plan we have now is so far out of date, we can't just do an amendment, because the big component that RCO looks for is the public outreach. And that's what's going to take the time, is doing all the public outreach to update the plan. And that's kind of a required element. We have to demonstrate how we did public outreach. I don't know when we could get done I don't think we would be able to get done in 2022. I mean, that would be a blistering pace to get it done. I'm not saying we couldn't get it done. It's part of it is going to be the budget. If we only can spend $145,000 and that doesn't cover everything, then we will have to roll over to 2023. Could be early 2023, but I really think it's important for us to take a comprehensive look at parks planning. I think the problem we've gotten to ourselves in the past is kind of twofold. One, we looked at parks individually and not parks as they fit into a whole system. So how does Midtown Park and Allen York Park and debates about the recreation program and trails, how are those all interrelated, and come up with a plan that does that. And then once we have that, then we'll know the cost and we can address our other fundamental problem, which is how do you pay for it? because that's going to, I think, going to be an iterative process. I think everybody will say, this is great. This is all the things we want to build. We'll get the cost. And then the question how are you going to pay for it? And then we're like, well, we don't want to spend that much money. So then we have to go back to the plan to figure out how we're going to adjust the improvements. Because a park could be anything from an informal field in a play area to a multi-sport court field. And the costs are significantly different for those two improvements. Just as an example, the Allen York Park is $6 million when it's all said and done. And that's just for one field. You can do a lot of playgrounds in informal fields for $6 million. So that's going to be that's part of this process that we have to go through. I know there's a lot of desire to want to get something in Midtown. I think we're about a year from being able to say this is what needs to go into Midtown. I think in January we'll be able to have those conversations about what we want to see in Midtown, or late this year. We'll have a good I think you'll have some coalescing around some ideals by the end of the year. Formal adoption probably spring of 2023, depending on how fast we can get a consultant on board and everything.
So that
Jason,
essentially
is this going to include community participation, either a survey or an actual group to advise?
So that's part of it that we're going to have to work up as we develop the scope of work. I will tell you, there's two different ways of doing. There's two different ways of doing community surveys. There's just doing a community survey and getting as many as you can in. That is one price. If you want to do a statistically valid survey, that's a significantly different price. So it's going to be dependent on kind of how much the council wants to spend on that survey question. The second is yes, and that's what I was talking with Commissioner Dole about, was we have to do a public outreach plan. We have to do public outreach, public engagement. And that's why I was talking about having that ad hoc committee that's probably made up of commissioners from both parks and planning, the recreation director, and then members of the community to kind of create an ad hoc committee. And then there's still going to be public outreach and trying to figure out how to do that in the COVID world. Hopefully we do it in the fall and there's not COVID. I don't know. Those are all part of parcel that we have to kind of work through.
I have a question about the when you say, we've got money that's going to go out towards a master plan, who decides the master plan and how is that, or who designs it? Who comes up with this master plan?
So what had happened was when the council approved the 21-22 budget, they approved a decision card to do a $145,000 expenditure to do a kind of master plan, construction level master plan like we did for Allen York Park. When that RFP went out to select a consultant, the council decided not to move forward with the project. So that money, that $145,000 is just sitting in the budget. Master plans are ultimately approved by the city council, park commission's involved. And we're not proposing to do a master plan. What we're proposing to do is this parks and trails open space plan that would have conceptual plans for all of the parks, that would have recommendations from both planning and parks commissions, and then and the public input, and then ultimately city council approval.
Okay, so a group of people within the city put together a master plan. It's not just like, you go in and you say, hey, I want all this in there. It's brought in, as a group of people that come in and then there's feedback from citizens.
Yeah, so the way it typically works is, one, we're going to have a consultant on board that's going to do a lot of the heavy lifting just because we don't have the staff to do that. And you normally would have consultants do it. As we do that, there'd be community outreach in the beginning to understand what we want out of parks, what facilities people want in parks. Then that gets kind of put into, and then we start developing the plans based on that community input. Here's where we see this, here's where we see this, here's where we see this. That goes back out for more public engagement to identify, yes, that's kind of what people were thinking, trying to respond to public comments. The park commission would have to make a recommendation because that's part of their principal duties. The planning commission, because it's also part of the comprehensive plan, would have to hold a public hearing, which we have to provide notice in the newspaper to anybody who's signed up on our notification list, which I think Debbie, if we looked at it last time, I think it was like 300 or 400 citizens, plus any state, local agency, tribes. They all get notice of it. The Planning Commission holds the public hearing, makes a recommendation, then it goes to City Council. City Council has an open process to discuss it, and then it's finally adopted. So there's lots of, and that's what I was saying is that trying to get from talking about it in January to an end product this year, it's I think a little unrealistic. I mean, I think we'll be at a good point in December to I know what we want in all the parks, and the kind of the last adoption process occurring in spring. But that's assuming that we get a consultant on board here in the next probably 2 months. And that's why this is a topic of discussion, because one, the city council has to add it to the work plan, and then two, has to reallocate the funds. If the city council doesn't reallocate the funds, then nothing moves forward.
Okay.
And then in 2023, a new decision card would need to move forward for any additional master plan from Midtown.
No, this would be, the nice thing with this is if we get this done, you wouldn't have to go back and do a master plan for Midtown. You could then identify a project that you want to do in Midtown and just do the engineering design details for that one plan. You wouldn't have to go back and repeat that step. This kind of conceptual plan will identify all the improvements, locations, and all the parks, and we'll be able to move forward that way, building off of the work that we've already done. And then and as part of this, the council, with recommendations from Parks and Planning, would prioritize the improvements. And it wouldn't just be like build Midtown. It'd be like build this at Midtown and build this at Vic. We can identify what portions of those improvements, so you can have an incremental approach versus all or nothing type issue.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Yeah, Craig?
Jason, how many square feet for that tower are we needing to replace?
Well, all in all, it's about 60,000 square feet. There's the tower, there's the decant facility that's currently over there. Part of the interim public works center is in Parks property. So there's about 60,000 square feet of Allen York Park that's being used for non-park purposes, for which we have to figure out how to add 60,000 square feet back.
Where the buildings and stuff are that the city works public works currently uses, since that's all being moved to their new location soon, can that all be just torn down and that's going to be part of our parks? And
in theory, that could be the recommendation, but RCO requires us to go through a public process where we say this is what we're taking away and this is how we're fixing it, and getting public input on that.
Okay.
So yes, that is one of the easier solutions, is adding the area that was the interim public works center, old city hall, to Allen York Park, and then adding all that area, and I think you could solve it. But we can't say that's the solution until we go through the whole process.
Okay, thank you.
But that could be an end goal.
That very well could be the ending result and the initial proposal, is to convert that. Because like the senior center is a park use, but it's on not park land, so you can legitimately move the senior center over. So there's lots of options there. We just got to kind of go through and dot all the I's and cross all the T's.
Okay.
The next two items, 8 and 9, I'll cover together. They are pre-work for the comprehensive plan update. So for our new commissioners, we have a comprehensive plan that we're required to update every 8 years. The last time we did it was in 2015. As part of that update, you're required to comply with any changes for the multi-county planning policies, which are adopted by the Puget Sound Regional Council, the new countywide planning policies adopted by the Pierce County Regional Council, and any changes in state law for which there's full funding, and there's lots of debate about that. And so the initial two elements of work of this are one is doing a scope of work. So that's going through our comprehensive plan and looking at the mandatory elements that we have to adopt and how we have to adopt them. And then identifying any additional work that we would like to do. And that would allow us, when we go into doing the budget season in 23 for the 2023 budget, we'll have an idea of what we have to adopt, and update, and how much, and an approximate cost. So for one example, we are going to have to do a new transportation plan, which means new transportation modeling, cost estimating. So that's about $150,000 in and of itself. So that's just one element. So we've got to kind of walk through that process. And then as part of that, we do have to have a public participation plan. So the item number 9 is to draft the public participation plan this year so that we know what public participation will be doing for the comprehensive update in 2023 through 2024. We do have funds in the current line item for planning to support these two work items. Implementation and the actual work would occur in 2023, and then we'd have to request funds from the city council and go through that process, and that would appear then. So that's kind of the main work items. We do have some advisory tasks. The watershed protection plan is still out there. I'm still working on it with ecology. That may come back to Planning Commission. I don't know at this time. We do have money in the budget to do a downtown civic campus master plan. And that would just be to implement the plan that's already in the center's plan. This may require input from the Planning Commission. We have to have discussions with the City Council on how we want to proceed with either the RF with this effort. Money was already allocated in the budget for it. We're still working on growth targets, and that will probably be one of the items at your next meeting. Is to talk about growth targets. It may even be at the joint meeting to talk about our 2024 growth targets. We had done this before. The target that we selected went through a bunch of negotiations. We came out with a target, then buildable lands got done and showed that we didn't have capacity for that target that we had selected. So we have two options, which is to increase capacity for additional housing units or lower the target. And we can get into more discussions on that. But that element is critical to our comprehensive plan update that will be occurring next year and all of our other planning efforts that we do. So that's the work plan. I can answer any questions.
I see a lot of stunned looks. Yes, Todd.
What do you think as far as that downtown master plan? Is that something that we'll see something happen in, because I know it was allotted for what, 22?
Yeah.
Those dollars?
Yeah, the dollars are allotted for 2022. I had to go back to the council and kind of get working on an RFP with them on how we're going to do that, kind of what they're wanting to see, what the end goal is, and depending on how those discussions go, then the involvement of the Planning Commission, there might be advisory work that the Planning Commission has to do as that master plan gets developed. The council could also say we want to do an RFP to select a developer and then do the master plan in coordination with the developer. So I've got to have that kind of conversation with the council to see which way they want that to move. And the one item that's not on here, and I forgot, only because Ryan and I were talking about it today, and you'll see it, is we have to do an update to our 6-year CIP to support the 2023-24 budget. So that will be an additional work item that you'll see, because that's adopted in our comprehensive plan. And you'll see that kind of go through this year to identify the proposed capital projects for the next 6 years.
And a CIP means what?
Capital improvement plan. So all the projects we want to do for water, sewer, transportation, parks. Parks one I think is going to be a little light because we really don't know what we want to build for parks, but that if there's nothing there, there's nothing there. I think most of our money got expended on building Allen York Park anyway, so I don't think there's a lot of money there to do park improvements. So, but that'll come forward, and you guys will be able to. We'll have a public hearing. You guys will be able to provide comment, and then ultimately the council adopts the actual 2-year expenditure CIP as part of the budget. This is kind of the lead up to that effort.
Jason, is there any forecast? Oh, sorry, Grant. Is there any forecast on those capital improvement dollars as far as are we going to be, significantly over, significantly over the last run, or is it still unknown?
No, we have to do a financially constrained 6-year CIP. So we do work with finance to get some estimated cost both estimated cost and estimated revenue. And so at the end, the projects we've selected, we've also showed the revenues for those projects so that the 6-year CIP in theory is balanced, but not knowing what the council is going to allocate in the out years, not knowing, it's not an expenditure authorization. It's simply a plan of how we're going to move the expenditures through council over the next 6 years, with ultimately the first 2 years of that CIP being what the council adopts in the budget for the CIP. And then years 4 through 6 are estimates and identified projects that may slip and move as we do the actual budgeting for those years and out in further years. So it's kind of a pre-step to the budget.
And just to toss in, before Jason got here, we were reacting to all of this, and we would get huge blocks of work, and you can see it coming up there. And Jason will give us a little bit at a time, and we stay on top of it. And Jason, once more, thank you for your attention to detail.
Thanks. We're trying to stay on top of this so it doesn't jump up and bite us. I will say there are lots of bills floating around in the legislature that could jump up and bite us and add a whole bunch of new work to this work plan that I'm not thinking of right now, just because of things that the legislature is looking at and toying with and may do and may not do. Some more controversial than others. But until the governor signs it, I provide input, but I don't get it on the work plan. But there might be some crazy stuff that we have to respond to, and I just won't know that until March when the session ends. Luckily, it's a short session, so I've only got about 2 more months before I know kind of what other things will be added.
Okay. Any more on the work plan? Okay. Moving on, bylaw amendments.
So the big bylaw amendment that we are trying to make, and I realize there's actually 2 that we need to make, and I'll get the first one is I think the more one that we'll have to talk about is about 10 years ago, the Park Commission only met once a month. As Grant alluded to, actually it was more than 10 years ago, it's probably 15 years ago. They only met once a month, as Grant alluded to. Then the city got hit with a bunch of work that they weren't expecting and had to double the meetings in order to get it all done. And so there's
5 inconsistencies.
Yeah, which I've never had 95 inconsistencies in my decade of being here. So we typically have only had to meet once a month, and sometimes not at all because we're kind of working out our schedule. This last year, Gary Leaf retired, and as part of that, I took over the Parks Commission. And in order to try to streamline this, and Debbie is the clerk for Parks Commission, Design Commission, and Planning Commission, for which I am the lead representative of the city for. So what we're working with both the Planning and Parks Commission is to move Park Commission to Wednesday nights when it would normally have been the Planning Commission's second optional meeting, so that all the commission meetings are occurring on Wednesday nights. The Planning Commission could have a second meeting if we need to by calling it a special meeting, and special meetings can be any day, any time, as long as we provide the appropriate notice. So we still have 2 nights a week, 1 or 2 nights on Wednesdays where we have Design Commission that we could do a Parks Commission. We could also do them on a Planning Commission, or we could do it on a Monday night. So there are options if we need to do a special meeting. So that would be the change in the bylaw, is that we meet once a month on a regular time at 6:30, and then if there's a special meeting, we'll do it from there. And that way, when Carrie sees me at Parks Commission in about 2 months, or in about a month. We're going to be talking about putting park commissions and doing bylaws for the park commission and putting park commission on Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. And the only other change is down in the agenda. There's a kind of a list of the things that have to be on the agenda. One thing that I would like to add under either for good of the order or somewhere on the agenda is a report from the Park Commission and the Design Commission. I kind of like having the fact that we now have a park commissioner who sits on both the Park Commission and Planning Commission, and a design commissioner, Vice Chair Strauss Boyd, who sits on the Design Commission and the Planning Commission. And so that we can get the commissions to know what we're working on, because they're all kind of planning related, is having that member who is a dual-seated member for right now provide that report. If we don't have a dual-seated member, I'll do the report. But right now we have dual-seated members, and they would kind of say, this is what Parks is working on, this is what Design is working on, because they're also those two commissions are also supposed to provide support and recommendations to the Planning Commission. So is there any concern with adding those changes or modifications to the bylaws?
Right? What do you got?
Well, when I first came on the commission, we were regularly scheduled for two meetings a month. And I'm looking at the schedule of work we've got in front of us. I'm thinking we probably should consider going back to that kind of scheduling. I don't know.
Well, part of the problem, Craig, is we as the staff don't have the ability to support that 2 meetings a month type of work level. Because by the time, because tonight when I switch off of Parks Planning Commission, I have to start working on the Park Commission. So because that's the challenge with Debbie and I having all four. Well, Debbie, I have 3 of the 4, and Debbie has all 4 of the commissions. Getting 2 packets out for Parks and Planning in the same week, there's just not the level of staff to do the work. So the work plan is based on 1 meeting a month and being able to get the work to the Planning Commission within those 1 meetings a month.
And if it comes down to needing a second one, we've got places
Yeah.
to put another one in. Now, is there any action on our part for the bylaws?
I wouldn't say tonight because we just discussed it. We'll put it on for action next week. Next time we've been trying to do this in 2 steps.
Right.
I think Vice Chair Strauss Boyd had a question.
Actually, just a comment, and I'm over the moon about doing a report out from Design and the Park Commissions. I think that it's long overdue, and I think it's going to be, I think it's a really good step in the right direction. So.
And we'll have everybody talking too.
Well, and I'm hoping I'll just let Carrie and Debbie stew on this. I'm hoping to do the vice versa at the Design Commission and the Plant Park Commission, that they would report out on what the Planning Commission is doing.
Sure. I think that's great.
So that, Debbie, there would be a spot on the agenda to say the Planning Commission is doing all these things. Let me know if you have issues. Because the Design Commission is supposed to provide recommendations on zoning changes if they want to. So that would be a time for you to kind of report out anything we're working on. And the same, Carrie, would go for Parks, to be able to provide input or say, hey, we want to talk to more about this. And we can try to coordinate that.
So we will see this in February then.
Actually, I think it would actually be March.
Okay.
Because February we're going to be at the joint meeting, and we won't be able to do it at the joint meeting.
And Jason and Debbie, do you want to remind the new commissioners that the joint meeting is not a compensated meeting?
Oh, that's true. It's not a compensated meeting.
I can't make it now, Jason. I'm just kidding.
Are you sure it's not compensated? I thought it was because you're being asked to attend.
Yeah, I think it is if it's the one meeting for the month.
Yeah. And
Oh,
you're
is it?
being asked
Okay.
It's the one meeting for the month.
That's why we've done it this way. It becomes your one meeting for the month, and that way you are compensated for it.
But we can keep Debbie's pay back. That's fine.
Yeah, we can keep Debbie's pay.
No
Yeah.
problem.
Well, my dog, Debbie.
So yeah, for the new commissioners, commissioners get a $50 stipend for attending meetings. So as Dennis Paulson used to say, I've won the lotto now. But yeah, the planning commission gets paid when they attend meetings, so you'll get a check. And I did talk to Commissioner Saul. I am going to be talking to the city administrator about whether or not we want to change that rate because it's been $50 since I think 04.
Since I started. Well, no, at least since I started, yeah.
So I'm asking Grant and Ryan if they want to do an amendment to just inflate it by inflation over the last 20 years so that it's roughly the same. I think it works out to be $65 or something versus, I mean, it's not a huge change, but just FYI.
Worth it. It's better than the raise we got last year, 0. And the year before. Moving on, technology resources usage.
Yeah, so this one, there's not a lot on technology for the individual planning commissioners because you don't have city laptops and you don't have city workstations. But this policy does cover email. There was a big discussion about email last year regarding the fact that you need to use your city email address to correspond with city staff on part or planning commission business. This has to do with the public disclosure laws. If you're doing email to your personal email, your personal computer can get swept up in a public disclosure case. By doing it through the city email, we're recording all those in our server, and so you're insulated from that. The other thing that was brought to Debbie and my attention that we were not aware of is that all planning commissioners are required to sign the acknowledgement of the technology resource package or policy. So on page 7 of the policy, page 39 of the packet is the acknowledgement form. It's basically saying you've received it and have reviewed it. I didn't want to go through it line by line, but if you could between now and the March meeting, read the policy, let me know if you have questions so that we can close this loop that Debbie and I were not aware of. Or if you've read it and you're okay with it, you can just sign it, scan it to me, sign it, drop it off, hand it to me at the joint meeting, and then Debbie and I can take care of that. We just found out about this, about a month and a half ago. And Todd, I don't know if you signed this as a council member, but if you did, then you wouldn't have to redo it again.
We have not done this prior. This is something that just...
It was something that we were supposed to have been doing prior, but Debbie and I were not aware of it.
So when I became a commissioner, I'm pretty sure I had to sign it, but I can sign it again and turn it in. But I remember.
Yeah,
So I think the newer members might have.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to figure out with HR, who has and who hasn't, and
Okay.
we're trying to close this gap, and we figured this would be the quickest way to do it. So I will do my best to close that loop. And I know, like all our new Parks Commissioners just had to sign it, so I know. So we're going to do this with Parks Commission too. So if you have signed it, I can check with HR. If you haven't, I'll verify that, and then we could. Like I said, Debbie and I were not aware of it. We're just trying to get the loop closed because I kind of got told by HR I had to do this, and I don't mess with HR.
So we
Sounds
will
good.
do this, and you will be safe from HR.
And then the same thing goes with the anti-harassment policy because it applies to both volunteers and employees who are, city employees. You have to be aware of our anti-harassment policy, which is basically, it describes what physical harassment is, sexual harassment, verbal harassment, and the fact that you can't harass people for any reason based on their protected class. I'm not going to go through every line of the policy. Please take a second to read it. If you have questions, questions regarding the policy, we could talk offline. It kind of goes through what sexual harassment is, what the other harassments are, kind of how you report it, the informal process, the formal complaint process. And then same thing here, you're just signing on page 7 of the policy, page 46 of the packet, that you've received the policy. If you have questions, concerns, reach out to me individually. Same thing here. And if you want to set some time to go through it line by line, I'm totally willing to do that. I just didn't want to do that with the whole commission as a meeting. Just wanted to kind of bring this to everyone's attention. We should have done this from day one. I just was not aware. We do this with employees when we hire them. I just wasn't aware that it also applied to the volunteers on the planning commission, and it was brought to my attention. So we're just trying to get things cleaned up and do the things that we need to do as staff. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the chair. But if there's any questions, please just send me an email, and we can set up a time to talk in person or on a virtual meeting.
Thank you. Before we go to the order, correspondence,
None.
staff comments.
I think I've talked enough. Thanks for everybody and all their hard work. Looking forward to seeing everybody in person and working on all these items.
And I do also have a comment. For those of you that were on Planning Commission last year and got paid, your W-2s will come out at the end of the month. There'll be an email. They'll ask for your passcode. It's your last 4 digits of your Social Security number.
Oh, I forgot one last thing for staff. We do have a new associate planner. Her name is Medi Brazil. She has been with us since about November. She's taken Nate's old position, and she will be doing work for the Planning Commission on some of the code updates, and you'll begin to see her at Planning Commission meetings and at Park Commission meetings.
Commissioner comments, Craig?
I just had a question, Jason. What's the status on code enforcement? Are those new hires going to be working that as well?
Code enforcement right now there isn't a person to backfill it yet. We are in the process of we kind of tweaked the position. It used to be an assistant planner / code enforcement, so they had kind of double duties, to doing a pure code enforcement officer, kind of like we did about probably 5-6 years ago, that would be focused only on code enforcement. That job description change is with HR and getting ready to go over to the union. And then once the union kind of blesses it and we get through the last of the council process, we'll get it out on the streets. We're hoping to have someone by March to take back over that code enforcement role. Right now, there's just no one in that position. We actually have 3 vacant positions in my division. We've got the code enforcement officer. We're vacant an inspector position and a plans examiner position. You're muted. You're muted, Commissioner Hubler.
Of course I was. I was just saying, of course, that means your job is super, super overwhelmed right now.
Yes.
It's like a duck. It's all calm above the water, but the feet are fiercely paddling underwater. Luckily, the 2 staff members we have are top notch and are carrying a significant load as we kind of get through this, and then we'll hopefully have a backup to full staff, and then we can start working on things that aren't just the prime priority. We can start working on all those other tasks that we need to do.
Awesome.
Commissioner comments. Todd?
Jason, real quick, can you just give us a very quick run on the grant process? Who's writing those these days? Are we still in a good position there? Gary did a bunch, right?
Yeah, and I don't know what the grant process is going to look like for parks, because Gary took the lead a lot of the times and I helped him. So like the grant for the trails, I was helping him write those. I don't know if that's going to be Leslie or if I'm doing the parks grants. That's still kind of up in the. I haven't got good direction on that. And then when it comes to planning grants, a lot of times I've been doing those. So like the housing action plan, the one that we got, the transit oriented development one that we didn't get. So there isn't one really dedicated person doing grants right now. And so we're trying to still figure that. I know Leslie's supposed to take a lead on a lot of that, but part of it's just knowing when they're out and getting that context. So that, yeah, that's something that we need to identify. But until we get the parks plan updated, I haven't really been worried about the parks grants because I don't have the plan that I need to be able to do the parks grants. So, and trails, we're so focused on building what we have right now that we're not looking at applying for any trails grants probably till 2024. Because we'd have to update the trails plan to identify where the routes are and then start doing the grant writing based on that.
Okay.
Any other commissioner comments? Jason, on the trails, some construction going on 410. Looks like it's going down to Angeline. Is that part of the trail?
Yeah. So over the last couple years, we got a bunch of different grants. One of the grants we got was from Sound Transit for a Sound Transit access grant. And what we were able to argue successfully is that we didn't have access from the Fennel Creek Trail to the Sound Transit Park and Ride. So they gave us, I think, $675,000 to build basically a staircase with what we call a runnel, which is like a U-shaped ditch that you could put your bike in and walk up the staircase because it was too steep to do like a walking trail. So yeah, that project, that work you see is actually a staircase that will connect the sidewalk on 410 to Angeline, right where the Fiddle Creek Trail comes under the Angeline Bridge. So you'll be able to walk from downtown and tie into the Fiddle Creek Trail and take your bike up and down in this little like runnel gutter. And I was going to say, Chair, I think Commissioner Binion had a question.
Good. Jessica?
Commissioner Binion, you're muted.
Sorry. I just wanted to apologize for being late. It just totally blew my mind today. So sorry about that.
Okay.
It really.
No, don't worry about it.
If your glasses are on point again, we forgive you for sure.
I will say you do have the snazziest glasses of anybody I've ever met. So I will give you that. I think you should get with Brad and Craig and start getting them some glasses so we could have like the three of you in like awesome glasses. Craig's not finding that funny.
I just think it would detract from the meeting because everybody would be looking at me.
It takes 20 years to get my husband to wear somewhat unique glasses. So, we've got time, Craig.
No more comments. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Right?
Second.
Made and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 We're adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Good to see
Bye,
everybody.
guys. Have a
That's
good
it.
night.
Night.